You can pull those things out. Hello, good evening. How's everybody doing? Come on in, guys. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome to Let's Talk. I am Juju. I am your host, joining you guys live from my kitchen this evening, and we're just looking forward to this discussion tonight. So we're going to have a special guest. Our guest is going to be Miss Verlinda White. So Miss Verlinda White, when you come on, just let us know, and we'll get you in there. But anyway, I do have my producer, Mr. Jackson. He's going to be joining us momentarily. So, guys, come on in and join us. If you don't mind, would you please like and share? Excuse me, y'all. Got a little activity going on in the room. But if you do not mind, please like and share this video. Like and share the video. Like and share the video. And invite your friend. Tell them, let them know that we are having a very important discussion on Let's Talk tonight. And we're having a very important discussion on Let's Talk tonight. And we're going to be talking about mental health awareness, realizing that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and realizing that mental health is something that really plagues the Black community, and it affects our African American people at a larger rate than it does the rest of the population. So it is something, and when they say that it affects us at a larger rate, that is diagnosed cases, and as we all know, the actual number of people who are actually dealing with mental illness is probably a lot more than what we are actually than is actually diagnosed. So we are looking forward to this conversation this evening. We are looking forward to the conversation this evening, and we're looking forward to the conversation this evening, and just hope that everyone will learn from it. So as usual, when you come in, please like and share the video, and also let me know that you're here. Let me know that you are with us this evening, and then that way we'll be able to know who's in the audience. Tell me hi, give me a thumbs up, wave at me, let me know that you're listening tonight here on Let's Talk. And please also like and share the video. Give me a thumbs up, like the video, and then share the video to your page and invite some of your friends. This is an important conversation that we're having tonight about mental illness and mental health awareness, especially in our Black community. It is something that I'm sure all of us, if we don't personally deal with some form of mental illness or have some mental health issue, then we definitely know someone who has an issue. So we want to make sure that we raise awareness, and then we help to rid the stigma, get rid of the stigma, okay? Because we want people to be able to be very comfortable going out and seeking the help they need. So anyway, and it is Memorial Day weekend, so I hope everyone is planning to celebrate. So
Okay, we got some feedback going on here. Speakers on your speaker. Problem on your phone. Oh, actually, guys, Mr. Jackson is in the room with me, and so we're trying to figure that out. So, can okay, we still got that feedback? Um, but anyway, uh, okay. So, anyway, so what are y'all plans for? What are y'all plans for? Hey, Miss Darlene Todd, how you doing? Welcome to Let's Talk. Thank you for joining us this evening. What are your plans for Memorial Day? Do you have any plans? Guys, I've been working so hard. I'm so tired. I am so tired. I've been going into work early. I've been staying at work late, and then I'm coming home at night working. And I worked up until I finally finished everything this afternoon that I had to do. Everything. Whew, finally got it all done so I can enjoy the remainder of my weekend. Um, so what I'm probably going to do myself, I'll probably move my position, pivot into the living room and let Mr. Jackson have the kitchen to himself. That way we won't have all this feedback. So Mr. Jackson, bring yourself on camera so you can talk to the people while I'm moving. Hey, Stacy Diller, how you doing, doll? Thank you for joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And guys, while we're getting situated, if you don't mind, please like and share the video. Please like and share the video. Hello, Miss Verlinda White. How are you? Thank you for joining. Come on in. I'm adding you in. Mr. Jackson is trying to get himself situated so he can come on because I'm going to move. We're actually in the same place, and so we were having some major feedback. So I'm going to move to the next room. I'm not. I'm waiting for you to get yourself situated. Hello, Miss Annie Jones. Hey, love. How are you doing? Um, Are you Miss Annie Jones? We're looking forward to talking to you on June the 8th. And because June, of course, guys, I'm gonna get all out y'all face. June is a hope month. We're gonna be talking about hope. Hey, hey, Marky, how are you doing? You did not come by after church. You were supposed to come by and help your auntie. You didn't come. You did not come. You didn't come. You didn't come. Miss Verlinda, are you on?
I am. I think so.
Okay, I hear you, and I'll see you on my other phone in just a second.
Okay.
Um, um, you'll pop up. But thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you for having me.
Miss Jackson is having some hard times over here, some technical difficulties. Okay. It won't. Did you log off on the computer? Oh, okay. Well, come off and come on again. I see Miss Verlinda. It has her her thing like it had for you that time. It has her just a little round stuff. Yeah, her. What do you call that? Her avatar. It's not her avatar. She hasn't turned the camera on yet. Okay. Do you have your camera on, Miss Verlinda?
Okay, let me go out and come back in. How about that?
Okay.
All right. Hello, 14 got your little ball. Now I know it. 14. Hey, Kashandri, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us this evening, Miss Kashandri. Um, so welcome, guys. We're going to talk about mental health tonight, mental health awareness and everything, and so this is, like I said, a very important conversation for us in the Black community to have, because mental health does impact us at a greater rate than it impacts the rest of the nation, the other counterparts. Um, so let's see, Miss Verlinda, I see you coming back. Let me see. Is that you? Hello, Jeffrey Thomas. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. Guys, when you all come in, please like and share this video. Please like and share this video. There you go, Miss White. How are you doing?
I'm
And then
well.
Mr. Jackson.
Hey,
And I'm
Jazz.
going to move to a different room, and Mr. Jackson going to talk to y'all while I'm moving.
Hey, good afternoon. Or good evening, really. It's good evening. We're super excited for this opportunity to present us with a topic that is near and dear to Juju and I. It's called mental health awareness. One of the things that as Juju has said to many of you, the stigma, the the stereotypes, all of the rumors, all of the myths about mental health and mental illness is very serious. And in today's environment, mental health has really impacted and affected our community tremendously because of what we've been taught and what we've been hearing about mental illness. Many of you already know my story. But the beautiful thing about it is we're going to talk about hope, because one thing that I need for all of us to understand and know is that we have hope in all situations, even though mental illness has a stigma. There are so many myths surrounding mental illness and self-care, mental awareness, mental health awareness, that sometimes we are overwhelmed and we're a little bit embarrassed about when we think of the term mental health. And we're going to have a very open and candid and transparent conversation with one of our top notch mental health professionals in Lee County. I am so excited to know her. I know her personally. I've known her for many, many, many years. And to know how powerful she is in the mental health community is absolutely phenomenal. We have someone that is in the ministry. She's a prophetess. We're going to talk all about her, but more than anything, she's a woman of God. But not only is she a woman of God, but she's a mental health professional. And you can only imagine how she's able to take her professional craft and then the holy craft that has been given to her and put those together to minister and to help facilitate mental health awareness and to help us overcome that particular, if you will, the stigma of mental health. And I've always heard her say, it is okay to not be okay, but it's not okay not to want to be okay. And it's very important that we understand that. And I always say to myself, I don't know that I don't know until I realize that I don't know. And we're going to talk about symptoms. We're going to talk about some of the things that we need to be doing to help counter react and not so much be reactive, but become proactive in the mental health awareness capacity. And I'm
Okay.
sure Ms. White is going to talk a lot about many, many, many different um, areas, and we're going to ask her a whole lot of questions. But while we are preparing for Julia to come
Okay.
on and Miss White,
I'm ready.
I think Miss White is already here.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm ready, Mr. Jackson. Can you
okay,
see me?
wonderful.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, guys. And y'all don't mind the scenery. I'm in my baby's bedroom, and of course, she got her own thing going on. But like I said, Mr. Jackson and I are in the same place. He's actually here from Atlanta, and so he's at my house, and so we were having all this feedback, so I had to move, and I do apologize to you guys. But anyway, so of course, welcome to this week's edition of Let's Talk. I am your host, Juju, and I'm coming to you live from my baby, my pumpkin's bedroom tonight. But anyway, Let's Talk, of course, is produced by my dear brother and friend, Mr. Jerry Jackson. Mr. Jackson always got my back. Um, there is so much to talk about tonight, so we're going to get right to it. But first, let me remind you guys that this isn't intended to be a news show, but we do our best to try to steer clear of things that are knowingly untrue. And it is my sincere hope, guys, that you all feel comfortable sharing your opinions and asking questions. And I hope that you all will ask your questions of our professional tonight. All that being said, let's talk. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so tonight we're going to talk about mental health and its impact on the Black community. According to the National Alliance of Mental Health, 43.8 million adults experience mental illness in any given year. African Americans are 20% more likely to experience mental health issues than the general public. And I think that that number is probably low because this is just reported cases. I know so many people deal with mental health issues and they deal with them in private and they suffer in silence. So anyway, I'm excited to have with us tonight to aid us in this very important discussion, Miss Verlinda White, a longtime mental health professional. And Miss White, welcome to our show. We are so excited to have you here with us tonight. And if you don't mind, please, would you tell us something about yourself? And Mr. Jackson sent me part of your bio, and I know you have so much. And I was like, what should I? What title does she like to use? And he's like, just call her Verlinda White. And I said, okay, I'll call her that, but she'll tell me what title she prefers when she introduces herself. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Miss White.
Well, first of all, good evening to everyone. And thank you again for having me on Let's Talk, because we definitely need to talk on this particular subject. I've been called a lot of things by a lot of folk. And I typically tell people it's not really what you're called, it's what you answer to. So,
Okay.
and I say that because in my line of work, I have encountered some very unreceptive people because of
Mhm.
their mental illness or their substance use or um, just lifing. At the moment, they may call you some anything. But I do believe that I'm graced to do what I do. And above all, I like to be referred to as a servant. Um, I love serving. I love helping people to make positive changes in their lives. In terms of ministry, I was ordained as an evangelist in 2007, and in 2021, I was elevated to prophetess. Um, But again, I serve in any capacity that I'm needed, because I've found out over the years of living, and by the way, in addition to May being Mental Health Awareness Month, May is also my birthday, and I celebrate all month long. And I'm very blessed that I am celebrating 70 years of life. And this is truly a blessing to be 70 and still working. I don't feel like 70, but I need Social Security to know I am still 70. And July July 2nd will mark 43 years of employment. And I'm not, I want to make this real clear. I'm not considering retirement yet, because there is still so much more that I feel that I can do to help people to make positive changes. One of the things that is very dear to me is educating. And I think that when people think about my impact or my involvement, I like for them to think about, well, what did I learn from her today? Or what could I learn from her? You know, ask me. If I know, I'm going to tell you. And most people who know me know that I'm straight up. Just, you know, you may not like what the answer is, but I'm going to give it to you. And if I don't know the answer, then I'm going to tell you, I don't know that, but I'm going to get back with you because I want to know what that is as well. But when you started off, and particularly when Jerry started off, talking about stigma, that's one of the big things that I think is a big hindrance to us, and in particularly in the Black community, the stigma. And it's not just the stigma from other people. Sometimes it's structural things like laws and policies and procedures. When you get other people involved, you know, typically somebody said, well, call the police. Well, their hands are tied. So that's a structural thing that has to be addressed in a different arena in terms of policies and procedures and regulations. And then there is the public stigma of people, the negative attitudes that people may have. And most of the time it's because they're uneducated and they don't know where to get educated, or the education opportunities, they don't know how to tap into that. But there are mental health first aid trainings available for free and sometimes a minimal cost, but there are a lot, and Google is, I mean, you can just Google a lot of stuff, and all the other search engines as well. However, then there's that self-stigma, and I'd like to really just kind of say that's more of a fear. And I was telling Jerry before we came on, this weekend I watched a documentary about Homer G. Phillips, the first public exclusively Black hospital that was started, I think, in 1939. I think it was 1939. And it was in Missouri. And prior to that, most of people of color did not have a hospital to go to. So who took care of us? Come on, talk to me.
Our parents, our family.
What did they use?
They use whatever they could find, natural remedies.
Yes,
Same remedies.
Or we, you know, I don't remember going to the hospital if I cut my foot.
Right.
People in the community use old sheets and rags and dipped them in turpentine and this, that, and the other, and that red stuff, mercurochrome, I think that's what it was called.
I'm thinking about a cut that I had on my toe, and what a man was doctoring on my toe.
Exactly. And going to the dentist. Who pulled your teeth?
Your parents.
With what?
Well, most of the time, my dad would just snatch it right out your mouth with his hand. But
Uh-huh.
I have seen people use strings and stuff like that.
Exactly. So it hasn't been very, very long that we have, I'm 70, but I can remember when all those things were the norm for us. And so when it came to mental illness, there wasn't a proper name for mental illness in our community, but we always have had persons either in our family or in our neighborhood who, by today's language, fit the diagnosis of mental illness, but we mistreated some of our own folk. Okay.
Yeah.
And most of that was because we didn't have the resources. This is something I used to train all of our staff at the mental health center. I was the director of staff training, and part of what I did was to help them understand what it was like before where we are today.
Okay.
I didn't know until I started working at the mental health center what Cersei Hospital was. Do y'all know what that is? Okay. It used to be a military fort, but because there were no resources for Black folk who had mental health concerns, that fort was converted to a hospital for Black folk with mental illness.
Okay.
And so there was segregation way back then with folk. None of them really had a problem with being together, but our society had a problem with Black folk and white folk being together receiving mental health services. But when I actually visited the Cersei Hospital, it was deplorable. And if I can liken that to the white water fountain and the colored water fountain, okay, so now you're understanding, what I'm saying about that. But when it comes to the stigma of receiving mental health services in our Black community, we still have a lot of work we have to do with educating everybody, because any of us, I didn't say any of y'all, but any of us can potentially have something to happen where we might need mental health services. And our biggest problem is we wait and we ignore or we don't know the signs and symptoms, and it becomes a crisis and we want to head to the emergency room for a problem that should have been addressed all along. The emergency room or the emergency department is really not equipped to talk about your trauma and what caused you to be depressed. And more than likely, you're not going to open up to somebody in the emergency room. And personally, even this year, I tried to assist someone who really have had mental health issues for a long time, but it became so overwhelming that the family thought the solution was, let's just get her to the emergency room, or let's just get him to the emergency room. And what did they get there? Medication. Okay. And now you have a family who's uneducated about the medicine. You have the patient uneducated about the medicine, and they're looking for a quick fix. And this doesn't happen like that. And so it ends up the person continue to spiral down to the point where in most cases, they end up being in a long-term facility to try to get stabilized for something that we could have possibly addressed long before that.
Long
So
before.
we think about,
Mhm.
some signs and symptoms. If you got somebody who's, just particularly sad all the time and nothing you can
Uh,
suggest.
can I
Mhm.
ask you a question
Sure.
first? Okay. Oh, okay. So let me ask you this.
Hmm.
Okay, the term mental health issues covers, we know, a large variety of different
Hmm.
diagnoses. What are some of the most common diagnoses in the Black community? Mental health
The
diagnoses.
the number one most debilitating diagnosis that that is among everybody, but in particularly uh, in our community, is depression.
Depression.
Go
Okay.
figure.
Okay.
Why? Okay.
No, no, no.
Mhm.
Like Mr. Jackson says, he has a story. I have a story about depression in myself. So yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But we use that term so loosely sometimes when
Mm-hmm.
somebody says, "Oh, I'm just so depressed. I don't have anything to wear." You know, um, we use words sometimes, but we don't actually use them as appropriate as they need to be. But
Mm-hmm.
a person with a clinical diagnosis of clinical depression, that's deeper than I don't know what I'm going to wear. Okay, a
Mm-hmm.
person
Mm-hmm.
with clinical depression, they may wear the same thing over and over and over and over again, and don't bathe, and just a lot of things going on. But if you notice those things, uh, I've had people to say, "Well, I didn't want to say anything to her or to him
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want him to get upset." Well,
Upset,
I'm the
right.
one. Call me. I'm the one because I know, the longer you go without addressing the elephant in the room, the elephant gonna tear up the room.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's really, you know, uh, we see paranoid schizophrenia. We
Mm-hmm.
see that, but the number one is depression, and
It's
it's usually
depression.
because of some traumatic experience, not always abuse, but a lot of times it is, early traumatic experiences a person may have,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be a combination of things, and
Mm-hmm.
the loss of a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
our regular routine is now not our regular routine, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and as Jerry
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, that loss of hope,
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm-hmm.
hopeless. And sometimes the person who actually is going through whatever they're going through don't have the words.
Right.
I remember, and I'm glad that I recognized some things to help myself. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember um, being able to identify some people I didn't need to have conversation with because they were uh, making my situation worse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had lost my dad. My dad was my first major loss in my life, and I thought I wasn't gonna get past that. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God.
Mm-hmm.
I cried, but I kept saying, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
But I had someone approach me one day when I was crying, and the way they interacted with me helped me to know you don't need to talk to me, because their interaction with me went kind of like this. Why are you crying? I mean, people die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
to have empathy, you got to have compassion, you got to have love. But I also recognize there are some ignorant people in the world. Ignorant just
Mm-hmm.
simply means unlearned.
Mm-hmm.
They need to learn,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a shame and to not know and
Mm-hmm.
not want to know. But there are some
But
people
yeah,
that you have to accept that they're not going to be good for you to be around.
at
So
that time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say from my personal experience, and I guess sometimes we don't recognize the symptoms of things because I knew I had anxiety issues because I would have anxiety attacks. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Jerry was saying, or people do, I was self-medicating, but I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
doing street drugs and alcohol. I would take Xanax,
Mm-hmm.
Zantac, what you use for acid reflux, because it would
Yeah.
calm me down a little bit, and then I could start breathing normal and everything. And so I was having that because my mom was sick and we were going through all these issues with her and back and forth to hospital. I think we went on a tour of hospitals, but anyway, so I would have those anxiety attacks. Well, after
Mm-hmm.
my mom died, I and other things happened too along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um uh I lashed out at people. Things would make me angry, and I would get so mad, and I would just lash out at people, and it didn't matter. And so me, because I had had a hysterectomy earlier, I'm thinking, okay, they say, sometimes you have a hysterectomy earlier,
The
you go through
hormone.
menopause earlier. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, okay, this lashing out is menopause. That's all it is. So I asked my doctor, my general practitioner, and he said, well, I said, I think I'm going through menopause. He said, well, what are your symptoms? And then I was telling him, and he said, no, that's depression. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, I'm not no depression. And so I just didn't even receive it from him. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to my gynecologist and I said, I'm going through menopause and I need, some medication for menopause, da 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 da. She asked me, what are your symptoms? And I
Mm-hmm.
was telling her, and she said, no, that's depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? So what I even thought of depression was, you having crying and like you said, you stay in the same clothes all day and da 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 and blah blah blah. But mine was not that.
Right.
I did feel tired a lot, but I'm saying that's menopause.
Mm-hmm.
I did, like I said, get angry and lash out at people. I'm saying these
Mm-hmm.
mood swings, those are hormones, that's menopause, da 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 da. And come to find out, it was actually me dealing with depression.
Mm-hmm.
So then I did have to end up, going on some medication, and it leveled off for me, and so I don't go off on people like I was. But it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, but I would have never recognized that as a symptom of depression.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody's different. Some people sleep a lot, and some people have insomnia. They don't sleep. Some people eat a lot, and then there are people who don't eat at all. And you could have a diagnosis of depression and another diagnosis as well. And when you look at uh, people who have some other medical, because mental illness is a medical diagnosis as well.
Mhm,
But let's just say you're diabetic and
mhm,
and you're depressed. Um,
mhm,
why would you be depressed with diabetes?
mhm,
Well, lifestyle changes. There are a lot of ups and
mhm,
downs with
mhm,
diabetes and heart conditions and all these other diagnoses that you could have. I have chronic arthritis and all of that. And sometimes it can be very debilitating. And sometimes there are things that you want to do. In your mind, you want to go do something, but you don't feel like it. And
mhm,
the fact that somebody may say things like, you don't ever want to do anything. No, it's not, I don't ever want to do anything. Sometimes I don't feel like
feel like
doing
it.
something, but it's
Mhm,
more of a physical thing. But I desire to do some things, but I may not do them. But when I'm on a roll, baby, don't try to stop me. I'm just playing catch up. I,
trying to
I
get
want to go and
it
do
all
what I can
in.
do. Yeah, do what I can do when I can do it. Uh, but I'm glad that you brought that up about, hormonal things, because, working in the mental health field uh, and working with men and women, there are a lot of things that people sometimes don't consider. And that is, they still got hormones too.
Mhm,
Okay. And so when their hormones are real high, and I'm talking sexual now. Okay, so my first day at work was almost my last day at work back 43 years ago, because when I pulled up to the facility that I started at, there was a man standing in the yard masturbating. I was not ready for that. Okay. And they did not tell me how I was supposed to handle that. So I almost backed out and just left because I didn't know. And, you know, we have this thought that people with mental illness shouldn't do this, can't do that, and this, that, and the other. But we have to remember they are a whole person. You know, we are whole individuals. So we have to consider all of those things as well. And since I'm saying that, let me also say that a lot of medication that's used for mental health treatment or intervention, oftentimes it may interfere with how productive you are. Sometimes it makes you more energized depending on what your diagnosis and what your medication is. But a lot of times it drains you, but it also can have a great effect on sexual performance or ability to perform sexually. And I had folk who had multiple diagnoses, but they knew that medication caused erectile dysfunction. They didn't call it that. They had another word for it, but we're going to keep this real professional tonight, okay? But I found out that one of my consumers, because that's what we call them now, was cheeking his meds. And I asked him, why are you not taking your medicine? He said, because I can't do nothing when I take that medicine. And, you know, and I'm trying to understand, what is it you're doing? Because, you know, at that time, I didn't embrace that they have sexuality, you know, or a need to express themselves sexually. And so even though I didn't know, I learned, but it also inspired me to study that. That was actually in my graduate school. That was one of the researches that I did on sexuality in persons with, at that time it was called mental retardation. Now we call it intellectual disabilities. But I wanted to know. And in terms of knowing, it helped me to train our staff how to best intervene or to interact when these situations come up. We would be here all night if I just talked about that aspect of things, but baby, it's real. Okay. All right.
Okay. So, you had talked about, you said earlier, people being in mental health crises and they get into that point of a mental health crisis. But this is a question I want to make sure that I ask. When you have an individual that is in the midst of a mental health crisis, what do you recommend that their loved ones do? And I need us, I want us to consider, or you to consider the fact that as a loved one, we may be afraid to call the police or whatever because of incidents of people in these crises being killed by police. So what do you recommend people do?
It is a hard and it's a tough thing to do, because, and I also serve as clinical backup to our on-call team. And when I was frontline doing it, you know, I can remember receiving calls and a frantic parent or spouse saying, you know, I don't know what to do. You know, he has a knife, or she has, you know, she's standing out in the road naked, laying down in the road naked, you know, or whatever. And it is hard. It's hard for them to hear, you're going to have to call the police. Well, but they might hurt them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But going back to the structural stigma, the public stigma, and the self stigma, that structural part, uh, when the police is involved, and I'm very grateful to tell you that when I became certified as a mental health first aid instructor, I had the opportunity to help train police officers for Auburn Police Department and nurses and doctors at uh, East East Alabama, uh, used to be EAMC, but helping them to better know how to intervene with someone who's in a mental health crisis. And because most of the time when they come out, they don't, their hands are tied. They don't know what to do. And helping them to know you can't shout commands at somebody, hey, come here, you need to do, because especially if this person is dealing with anxiety or paranoia, that they're gonna charge at you or whatever. It's a difficult thing, but that's all we have right now. And saying you're gonna have to call the police. Now, our mental health center has a crisis service where if we're called, our mental health center, which is Integria, if we're called, our crisis team will assess the situation and in most cases go out with the police in a crisis situation, but not always, because we cover Chambers, Tallapoosa, Russell, and Lee County. But crisis units are pretty much the standard everywhere now. But it's the issue of getting that family member to make the phone call. I had a mother who had barricaded her child in the room, and because he kept going outside, stretching out in the road, which was a danger to himself, and she said, I said, well, ma'am, you're not going to be able to do that all night long. She said, but I just don't want him to get in any trouble. But you can't stay up all night, So as a mental health professional, we're having to deal with trying to direct and guide the caregiver and also deal with the mental health part. Before I started working in mental health, I worked with children at St. Michael's Child Development Center for about 7 years before I started employment with mental health. And what I found out is a lot of how I was able to more easily work with people with mental illness and intellectual disabilities and substance use is, to some degree, you're dealing with the innocence of a child, because even though they may be cussing you out while they're telling you, "Oh, you ain't finna touch me," and I don't need no medicine and all that. Again, I just believe that God graced me to do what I've been doing, and I can have somebody cussing and doing all kind of stuff and telling me what they're not going to do, but they still doing it. Like, come on, I got you. You're going to be all right. I got you. I got you. I got you, and I need you to sit right here. I ain't sitting down now. I ain't going to sit down, but they're sitting down because it's something. And again, I thank God for it. It's something that you got to have as a professional. It has to be what you're supposed to do in order for you to do it well, because there are some people who just want a quote job and they find out this ain't it, this is not my calling. And so I'm very grateful that I've been able to establish rapport with family to kind of get them calmed down, and it's going to be okay. But it's difficult. You know, it's difficult, and that crisis part. This is the part we need to really focus on, having more open conversations like you're having tonight. Not just Mental Health Awareness Month, but this need to be on the regular. You know, as Hope said in Driving Miss Daisy, this need to be the regular, because more conversations about what to do, how to do, will help us better educate ourselves, people in the community, not just for what's happening right now, but what could happen. The potential is there for us to have to intervene with somebody, and we never know. But the more we educate ourselves on this, and again, I applaud both of you for what you're doing tonight, and I would encourage that this become more regular, you know, outside of Facebook, in the community, just a gathering. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but we have to start somewhere. We tried getting something going about a year or two ago, but we weren't successful with that. But even if it's quarterly, you know, let's come together, talk about it, you know, what's new going on. And there are some groups that are already in existence, but there's not one that is exclusively for our Black community. And as I was mentioning to Jerry earlier, the reason why I'm saying that it is a real fear in our community of being deceived. Part of that is because of the Tuskegee study, and I love all the pre-posting that you all did about the myth and the stigma that's attached. We have been told things even like suicide. Black folk don't commit no suicide. But they do, you know. And suicide didn't just start happening to Black folk. Suicide was in the Bible, okay? Mental illness was in the Bible. It is in the Bible. So again, there's nothing new under the sun. These things happen, and they happen, you know, in our community, just like in any other community. But we've got to get past saying things like black folk don't need to be taking no medicine for no, just need to get to the altar and pray. Well, I'm here to say tonight, there are some of the ones who are saying all you need to do is pray, meaning church leaders. Some of them need to be on medication. Okay.
And I was going to ask you about that as an evangelist and a prophetess. Religion, you know, you have people who say that if I'm taking this medication, then I don't trust God, or if I'm seeking therapy, I don't need medication, I just need meditation and other things like that. So yeah, I would like for you to expound on that as from a political from a religious leader, a religious leader's perspective.
I don't know if Apostle Florence is on the live tonight, but I do know that she, along with some others, we had talked about doing some things to educate the clergy, and that's critical. It's very critical, because we can't separate organs and say which one we're going to pray about and which one we're going to go to the doctor about. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
your
Okay.
brain is an
It's an
organ.
organ, yes.
So if I come to you and tell you, Pastor, I'm going to the doctor this week because my heart just been fluttering, and uh, they want to run some tests, and they got me, taking some medicine for it to kind of slow it down, and I need you to be in prayer with me. All right, daughter, I'm gonna be praying with you. Now you do what the doctor tell you to do, and let me know, if there's anything I can help you with. Okay, you all right? Because I'm talking about my heart. If I come
Right.
to you, Pastor, I'm just not sleeping. I just can't sing. I'm just crying. I you know, I'm I just feel angry. I feel overwhelmed. Um, you just need to get to the altar. You need
Yes,
deliverance.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I might need that too.
Right.
I might need
They're not
deliverance from
mutually
from
exclusive. Right.
from some
Okay.
stuff that's messing with my heart, because
Mm-hmm.
stress can cause you to have heart problems as well.
Right.
So
Right.
again, I'm big on and this educating part, and I spent time in prayer that God would touch the leaders, and especially in church, because most
Mm-hmm.
of the time, even if the pastor quote a scripture wrong, uh, the folk in the pew, amen, because they ain't paying attention. Okay,
Right. Right. Right.
and that's
Exactly.
and that's the problem. Sometimes, even from the pulpit, there is uh, Apostle Jones used this misinformation is bad as well as no information. Okay,
No
you
information.
telling you telling
Okay.
folk the wrong stuff, uninformed and misinformed. So it's time. I think it's a great idea to have seminary classes and all of that. I think it's good to study, the history of the Bible and stuff. But you got real folk in these pews. You got real folk, in the choir. You got real folk on these instruments. You got real folk in the pulpit. But out of all the real folk that's in all of these places, they got some real
Real
issues.
issues.
And
Yeah.
if they are not addressed, and again, I don't want to put everything on trauma, but there is so many traumatic things that have happened, but there are so many traumatic things that are happening.
Are
When
happening.
we read the news and we hear
Mm-hmm.
about human trafficking or drug
Mm-hmm.
trafficking and all of that stuff, nowadays, who you see pop up, people who should not even be named among those, teachers, preachers,
Mm-hmm.
engage
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement, engage in
Right. Right.
sex
Right.
trafficking and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
These are people. It's like, where do you put your trust?
Where do
Who
you
do you
trust?
trust?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you trust? We got to be more alert. But I'm gonna tell you one of the
Mm-hmm.
I,
things that has compromised our ability to recognize stuff, and that's the drug use.
right.
Uh,
May I
the-
intervene for just a moment because
yes.
time is of the essence, but I want to get to this question that is so prevalent in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, growing up, Black men, Black boys, we have always been told that we're the leader of the pack and we've got to be strong and we can't cry, we can't show emotions, and we shan't do this and we shan't do that because it's going to make us weak.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Verlinda, do you think that has attributed to a lot of the mental crisis that we're seeing today? Because men have a lot on their plates. I mean, men in general, but Black men specifically, because of what is facing us, from we look at police brutality, we look at walking on eggshells, we look at all the high expectations that we have to achieve, even in the corporate world. on the streets at home.
Mhm.
And I know I had a friend, a personal friend of mine, say to me, nobody knows how wet my pillow is at night
Mhm.
because of all the issues that I'm dealing with. And so,
Mhm.
as Black men, we're dealing with a plethora of things that's causing us issues. So, talk a little bit about the expectation on Black men that have led to this high rate and high influx of mental health crisis.
Mhm. Um, First of all, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. One of the most appealing and sexiest thing about a Black man is a Black man who who can cry real tears. Okay, uh, and that's my opinion.
Okay.
Now, we're not talking about somebody that's crying every time you turn around, they're crying and snotting all over everything. Okay,
Oh.
but genuine, being a safe person for a man, in particular a Black man, to be able to express himself and not be looked at as what you crying about. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you got a lot to cry about. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I spend time wanting to know uh, the whys about things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the name of the documentary, but the plight of the Black man uh, has been horrific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been that long ago. And
Mm-hmm.
some of
Still
the
today.
things that Black men were subjected uh, to take their dignity away, uh,
Mm-hmm.
some of them are these older Black men that you see walking around. There ain't a whole lot of them now, but some of them had to witness some very um, character destroying things. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
watching someone take advantage of their wife or
Right.
their children
Right.
and couldn't say
Mm-hmm.
anything. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and being belittled in front of their children and their wives.
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with that and trying to teach survival skills to our young Black men, and it's sad, but it's true that we do have to say now, when you are out driving, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to handle that. I had to
Right.
school some of my uh, white associates that our conversation with our teen boys is different
Different.
from the
Mm-hmm.
conversation you might have with yours. You might
Right.
say to your son, you all make sure that um, you get home and get the laundry out. I'm just
Yeah, you
worried
know all this
about
stuff.
mine coming home, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Right.
because my son being stopped is it's greater, the potential is greater for my son to be stopped versus yours, simply maybe
Right.
because of what he's driving, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a good car or a bad car. Either
That's
way,
right.
you know
Yeah.
it increases the possibility simply because he's Black.
Right.
And again, we don't have the time to kind of explore some of these things that have happened, but it is true. And so we we have to have these conversations
Yeah.
where we stop belittling our men. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the music that a lot of people are thumping at, and where them fans at and all that kind of stuff. Listen to the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the lyrics of songs that we endorse, that
Yes.
continue to perpetuate, this line of thought about who is a man, because he got a six-pack, baby, I'd rather you have a prayer life than a six-pack. You know,
Okay.
but
Okay. Okay.
how
And
much
I
money?
was uh
Go ahead.
no, I was reading in my research that that trauma that we as Black people experience in these United States, men and women,
Mm-hmm.
that it is passed on, that trauma is passed on genetically, just
Mm-hmm.
like I might have a predisposition for diabetes
Mm-hmm.
or predisposition for heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
The trauma is passed on, and you don't think of that as something that is passed on genetically,
Mm-hmm.
but the research shows that that too is passed on from generation to generation.
It's the
Excuse me.
script.
I need to interrupt because we've had so many wonderful comments
Oh, I'm
in
sorry.
the chat, but there's a recent one that I think we need to bring up. We have a person, Connie Brooks Smith, that's wanting you to expound a little bit on childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Um, of course, we know that where time is of the essence, but is there anything you can say to her? I think she may want a definition or something about childhood trauma.
Uh,
Just the
most.
impact of childhood trauma on adults. Just,
Mhm.
yeah, just
Yeah.
give us a little of that.
Yeah. Most of the trauma when it happens in childhood is usually related to either sexual abuse um, or physical, emotional abandonment, you know, all of those things. And the hardest part is when the child may have experienced that and tried to report it or tell somebody, and then they were either ignored or they were punished for telling it. And you know,
Mm,
the old saying is, and you better not tell nobody. And what
mm.
go on in this
The
house,
bone
stay
in this
in this
house
house.
stays in this house.
Uh-huh.
Mm,
And
mm,
and then the other part of that is educators not knowing how to identify um, a child that may be going through some traumatic kind of things. And our foster system is designed to provide, you know, a therapeutic place for persons to live. But when you talk to adults who may have gone through the foster system, oftentimes their experience is, I got
not good.
uh,
Mm-hmm,
I got violated even in all of
mm-hmm,
these placements. So
mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is, and Juju mentioned earlier about self-medicating, um, because now directing the court referral education program where I work with people with substance use, most of them, after some time of working with them, and we getting down to the root of the matter, it was something happened back when they were young, and it was never addressed appropriately, and so they start drinking and drugging to try to mask the
Yes.
feelings they have.
Uh-huh.
And so, and you know, I know you read about or heard about someone, an adult who may have violated a child. Oftentimes it's because that was something that was not
Done to
addressed
them.
and
Okay.
addressed properly. But there's hope. You know, it's not enough resources, but uh, people, again, like I said, people need to have a safe place
Mm-hmm.
to express themselves without someone saying, well, it was your fault. I love being able, I love being able to say to someone, it wasn't your fault.
Okay.
Some people
Okay.
live to hear that. They, if
Don't do
one
that.
person
Mm-hmm.
could connect with them and
Mm.
feel them. As my folk can say, they'll hit themselves in the chest. Miss White, you feel me? I'm like, baby, I feel you. Okay.
Mm.
But
Mm.
for me to say it wasn't your fault, for them
No.
to be able to cry on me, and
Mm.
I don't have anything so, special that I'm concerned about somebody, snotting and crying on
Mhm.
me. It's okay, because that may be the only time that they're able to feel safe enough to say, hey, I feel better. Uh, Thank you so much. Okay. You got to you might not be able to do everything, but you need to do something. And so,
Okay.
excuse me, I know our time uh, is
And can I
far
just
spent.
ask you something, because I really want us to be able to maybe help Miss Brooks with something.
Mhm.
What you said, there are resources available. If you feel like that there's an adult that is suffering now because of something that happened to
Mhm.
them as a child, they're dealing with this childhood trauma, or, and
Mhm.
maybe they're self-medicating or whatever. What
Mhm.
kind of resources are available locally for them? What kind of
Our, our
resources are available?
our local mental health center, Integria, um, can always be, accessed. And 742-2877, I think that's the number. I got this on speed dial, so
Mhm.
I will come back and post it under the comments. But the calling our agency to schedule an appointment to come in, but there, sometimes people are not at that place yet
Right,
where they want to call someone.
right,
Uh,
right.
and most of the time, and somebody asked me, when do I work? I work all the time. But most of the time, people will inbox me or say, because everybody's situation is different,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and where they are or where they can access something may be different. So that's not a blanket for everybody, to call the
Mm-hmm.
mental health center. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some folk need to call the police, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because some folk need to be locked up because they may still be traumatizing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
if there's somebody who does need help,
Mm-hmm.
don't feel ashamed to say, hey, I need some help. And I'm going to say this very briefly. In 2020, God gave me um, a ministry, Naomi Girls Ministries. And basically, it was because I experienced childhood trauma myself, and of being sexually violated.
Mm-hmm.
The perpetrators, all of them are dead, and I didn't kill any of them. Okay. So let me put that out there. I didn't kill nobody. Um, but I recognize how important it was. I never told anybody about it until I was grown. And I thank Dr. Frankie Bell for A Heart to Heal. One of the events she had was my first time actually vocalizing
Mm-hmm.
what happened to me. And
Okay.
that's why it's so critical to have safe places. But anyway, God gave me the ministry, Naomi Girls Ministry, and basically it is to help grown women 18 years and up uh, to finally have a safe place and a safe person that they can talk to about what happened,
Okay.
because there are some little girl hurts
Right.
tucked inside some grown women walking around,
Yeah.
and they never told anybody, or they tried to tell somebody and it wasn't received. uh,
No.
in our community, a grown man can quote mess with a young girl, and the women, she just too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but who made it fast? Okay, that's why we also got to be so careful about how we allow our young girls to grow up, how they dress and how they carry themselves, not because we're trying to keep them from men, but because we want them to be, to grow and experience things on a more appropriate
Appropriate
or
level.
age appropriate
Mm-hmm.
level.
Right,
And so
right.
the more we promote maturity too quickly,
Mm,
then we expose them to the possibility of somebody doing
right,
something they don't have any business.
right,
And
right.
if I can say this, we got to stop letting our children spend the night with folks. Keep your
Ooh.
children at home. Keep,
And we can't have
you know,
all these miscellaneous play dates either.
uh,
My
uh,
mama didn't play that. You
yeah,
ain't going no people house. You know, she
yeah.
ain't know.
Keep your
No, no, no.
children. And I know the word is children, but keep your children at the house.
Yes,
Uh,
Exactly.
yes, yes.
Amen.
uh-huh.
Well,
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
we've got to get to a stopping point,
Yeah,
but
we got to get us to a stopping
we
point.
have a
I,
request.
I
We have a request.
do. Okay, Mr.
Do
Jackson, I'm gonna let you get to that request, but I really want mm, uh to be able to help somebody in this tonight.
Uh-huh.
So if I have a family member that I am concerned about, I'm trying to get help for,
Mm-hmm.
how do I do that? How do I get help for my family member that I'm concerned? And they may not be ready to receive the help, but I know that they desperately need the help.
Okay. You said a key word, they may not want to. And that's where that structural stigma come in with the policies, procedures, and laws and all of that. Currently, the way things are, if a person does not agree uh, for intervention, treatment, you can't make them.
that's
And
right.
that's a tough part, and because most of the time the person who needs the 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 intervention the most, they say things
Okay.
like, I'm good,
I'm
I'm
good.
fine,
Right,
ain't
right,
nothing wrong with me. Okay,
right.
but something is really wrong with you, but oh, I'll be all right, but they're not. And so
Mm-hmm.
what the family member has to do is uh, keep reaching out to the resources to say, what can I do in the meantime? There
Mm-hmm.
are some things, and I can't really answer them specifically here because it just depends.
Okay.
Sometimes there are some hard things that you have to do uh,
Mm-hmm.
with uh, calling the police, uh, going to the probate judge, to get a petition for that person to be picked up, taken to the hospital, to be assessed. But that's not long term. And being in the hospital a couple of days doesn't fix the situation. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to take the hope away, but mental illness in most cases is long term,
It's a
it's chronic.
lifetime
Yeah.
thing.
And
Yeah.
so people are quick to want to know, well, can't they just be put on medication, baby? For first of all, the medication doesn't work overnight. A
Right.
person may
Right.
go to sleep or whatever, and you might say, well, they're just sleeping too much, but the body is getting adjusted to the medication and all this kind of stuff. Things have to be tweaked, and everything is not a medication. So it that's what it is. But it's going to be different for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
it's necessary. We don't need to just say, well, we're just going to ride it out and just see how things go. Well, I'm here to tell you that more than likely it's going to go south real quick, and then you end up trying to get to the emergency room, or the person either hurt themselves or hurt you. Just imagine, you got somebody that go out and buy a gun. And there are no regulations, or very few regulations now. And even if you don't buy it from a quote legal place, you can get a gun off the street if you got the money. And then you end up with people killing themselves or killing their family members and themselves, you know. But they're actually been crying out for help for a long time.
All right. Well, oh, okay,
I
Mr.
think
Jackson,
Jerry
you were
has
trying to
something.
say something. Yeah, Mr.
Jerry?
Jackson.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
So, Miss White, there are several requests in the chat that we bring you back to have a part two.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're going to try to fit you in because we like to honor those requests of our audience members, and we would love to bring you back to a second part to this because, believe it or not, there is a lot of interest. There is interest in this subject matter because everybody knows someone that is experiencing a mental health issue or some type of a crisis. So we would love to get you back. I'm not asking for a commitment. We'll do that privately, but I'm just answering the request of those others. Yes, we will get her back on. So
Absolutely.
there are lots of comments in the chat, Julia.
We
We were not
we're
able
gonna
to get to them.
yeah, I'll reply to them. I'm sorry we didn't have an opportunity. We are way over time, guys, so we got to go. And I'm sorry we didn't have an opportunity to respond to them, but I will go through the chat. And Ms. White said she was going to add some things to the chat. So you guys come back and look at the chat and see. Maybe she'll respond to some of the questions and whatnot. But anyway, Mr. Jackson, go ahead and give us our announcement real quick so we can
Absolutely.
get on out here.
Absolutely. Well, first, we would be remiss if we didn't say thank you, Verlinda, for an outstanding lecture. I don't know. It was just wonderful. We needed that. Thank you very much. So here are the announcements as follows. Our upcoming talk shows will be the whole entire month of June, we will be focusing on hope. So we may be able to get Miss White back and continue this conversation and then talk about hope. But next Sunday, June 1st, Althea Ashford and myself will be talking about overcoming our serious medical traumas and how we have hope. And the very next Sunday, June 8th, we're going to hear about the Annie Jones story, overcoming economic inequalities and inequities. Then on the 15th, we're going to have a wonderful Juneteenth celebration where we're going to be talking about overcoming racial inequalities. And on Monday, all the way up until tomorrow, there is still a spending boycott at Walmart. Try to avoid spending your all hard-earned dollars at Walmart. If you have to go to Walmart, go there for your necessities. And we've been talking and talking and talking about this wonderful program and celebration that's going to be coming up on the historic campus of St. Luke AME Church Saturday, June 28th, 2025 is nothing other than the Juneteenth celebration. And our theme will be From Chains to Change, honoring freedom and embracing inclusion. And it's going to be held from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. I know that we have many of Verlinda White's friends on this event tonight. We know that you know some people who can be vendors, who can be sponsors, who can do entertainment for us. Verlinda is also a great psalmist. We're not going to harass you about coming to sing, but we know that you know some people like your son and your daughter in love. Okay? Hint, shameless plug for your son and your daughter in love. But if you know anybody that's interested, please have them to reach out to Julia, Joyce Thomas Vincent, or myself. And please continue to watch Facebook and our social media sites to understand and learn what we're going to be doing. Of course, for those of you that are out there looking for wonderful skincare, we've got a person by the name of Duchess Thomas Vincent, who is your independent Mary Kay consultant. Please contact and consider her for all of your Mary Kay needs. Also, there's this wonderful podcast called Divinely Guided Podcast on YouTube that is hosted by that dynamic mother-daughter duo of Duchess Thomas and Adriel Vincent. And I will be posting um, their link so that you can go on YouTube and see them. And all of their new shows drop every Monday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And as we've asked for you at the beginning of the show, we ask that you to subscribe to Juju's Dollhouse YouTube channel. That's going to give you an opportunity to keep up with everything that's going on with By Juju for you and anything about this talk show. And you'll be able to catch any editions of Let's Talk that you may have missed. And those are all the announcements that I have, Juju. I turn it back over to you.
All righty then. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, servant, Verlinda White. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And we will have to get you back soon so that we can continue this very important, informative, in-depth discussion. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys, everyone who has joined us tonight. Thank you. We're sorry that we kept you over, but thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you all back here next week. I am Juju. I am that mountain moving giant slayer. I'm walking by faith. I'm inspiring hope, and I'm showing love all along the way. And until next time, I wish each of you much love and many blessings. Good night.